When Gene Roddenberry created Star Trek in the 1960s, he envisioned more than just another science fiction show. He imagined a platform for exploring humanity's deepest fears, prejudices, and moral dilemmas through the lens of futuristic storytelling. And while that vision gave us some of television's most groundbreaking moments, it also produced episodes so controversial that they were pulled from broadcast schedules, edited beyond recognition, or outright banned in various countries. These weren't minor controversies that faded with time. These were episodes that touched raw nerves in society, confronting audiences with uncomfortable truths about violence, sexuality, mental illness, and social taboos. Even today, decades after they first aired, some of these episodes remain difficult to find or have never been shown in certain regions. What makes these banned episodes particularly fascinating is that they represent Star Trek at its most fearless. They're the stories that networks, censors, and even some fans wished had never been made. But they're also the episodes that prove how seriously the franchise took its mission to boldly go where no one had gone before, even when that meant going too far for comfort. Let's examine 3 Star Trek episodes that pushed boundaries so aggressively they're still banned or heavily restricted today, and explore exactly why they caused such intense reactions. The 3rd season of Star Trek's original run gave us Miri, an episode that begins as a standard mystery but descends into territory that made television executives deeply uncomfortable. The Enterprise responds to a distress signal from a planet that appears identical to 1960s Earth. When the landing party beams down, they discover an abandoned town that looks frozen in time, as if everyone simply vanished mid-activity. The horror begins almost immediately. A diseased man, his body covered in grotesque lesions, attacks the crew before dying violently. This sets the tone for an episode that would become notorious for its disturbing imagery and uncomfortable themes involving children. The crew encounters Miri, a frightened girl who explains that she and other children are the only survivors on the planet. She calls adults grups, a childish corruption of grown-ups, and treats them with fear and suspicion. The landing party soon develops purple blotches on their skin, the first symptom of the plague that killed the planet's adult population. Here's where the episode becomes truly unsettling. The children aren't actually children at all. They're over 300 years old, aging 1 month per century due to a failed life extension experiment that went catastrophically wrong. While they've lived for centuries, they maintain the emotional and intellectual capacity of children, creating a disturbing disconnect between their age and maturity. Dr. McCoy discovers that the plague was engineered accidentally by scientists attempting to extend human life. The disease remained dormant in children, but activated violently at puberty, transforming adults into mindless, violent creatures before killing them. This biological horror, combined with the image of ancient beings trapped in children's bodies, created a deeply uncomfortable viewing experience. The episode's most controversial aspects involve the children's behavior toward the adult crew members. An older boy named John, jealous of Miri's attention toward Captain Kirk, leads the children in stealing the crew's communicators. The children form mobs, display violent tendencies, and at one point capture Yeoman Rand in scenes that many viewers found disturbing given the apparent age of the actors. The climax features Kirk being swarmed and beaten by the child mob, leaving him bloodied and desperate. While he eventually reaches the children through emotional appeals about their responsibility to younger kids, the violence and psychological manipulation throughout the episode left many viewers unsettled. The BBC aired Miri once in 1970 and received immediate complaints from viewers. The combination of children exhibiting violent behavior, the disturbing premise of ancient beings in young bodies, and the overall dark tone led the network to exclude it from repeat broadcasts for over 2 decades. The episode wasn't just pulled for being too scary. It raised uncomfortable questions about how children should be portrayed on television and what kinds of threats they could believably pose to adult characters. Critics of the ban argued that the episode was actually quite tame compared to later television standards, but defenders pointed out that the psychological horror of watching children behave in threatening, almost predatory ways toward adults crossed lines that audiences in the 1970s weren't prepared to accept, especially in a family-oriented science fiction show. If you asked most people to name a banned Star Trek episode, Plato's Stepchildren would likely come to mind first. This episode made television history, but not in a way that everyone celebrated at the time. The story places Captain Kirk and the Enterprise crew at the mercy of a society of alien beings who model themselves after ancient Greek philosophers. These aliens possess powerful telekinetic abilities, which they use to force their captives to perform humiliating acts for their entertainment. Kirk and Uhura are manipulated like puppets, made to dance, laugh, and cry against their will. Then comes the moment that changed television forever. Under the aliens' control, Kirk and Uhura are forced toward each other and share what became the first interracial kiss on American network television. The kiss lasts only a few seconds, but its impact reverberates through television history. Understanding why this was controversial requires understanding the America of 1968. This was a nation still grappling with the civil rights movement, where interracial marriage was illegal in several states until the Supreme Court's Loving v. Virginia decision just 1 year earlier. The idea of showing a black woman and white man kissing on primetime television was considered genuinely radical, even dangerous, by many. NBC executives were surprisingly supportive of the scene, but they worried intensely about how local affiliates, particularly in the Deep South, would react. There were genuine concerns that stations might refuse to air the episode or that NBC could lose southern markets entirely. Some executives suggested filming alternate takes without the kiss, but director Mark Daniels and the actors deliberately sabotaged those takes to ensure the kiss remained. What's remarkable is that NBC's fears proved largely unfounded. When the episode aired, the network received virtually no formal complaints from American viewers. The few letters that did arrive were overwhelmingly positive, praising the show's courage. Viewers across the country seemed more ready for progress than network executives had anticipated. The reaction in the United Kingdom told a different story. When Star Trek was broadcast by the BBC, executives chose not to air Plato's Stepchildren at all. The official reason given was that the episode was too violent, pointing to scenes of psychological torture and forced humiliation. But many observers believed the real concern was the interracial kiss, which British broadcasters feared would provoke backlash from conservative audiences. The ban in the UK wasn't absolute forever, but the episode remained unavailable to British viewers for years, making it one of the most famous examples of television censorship in Star Trek history. Even today, Plato's Stepchildren is studied in film schools and cultural studies programs as an example of how entertainment can challenge social norms